Hi, I'm Ingemar Hunnings, and welcome to this video. So I am the lead consultant of Hunnings Consultancy. We help law firms, businesses within the legal services sector with all the stuff around the running of their businesses, which includes compliance. So today we're having a conversation about the announcement from the SRA that from the beginning of 2020, they're going to be carrying out spot checks on law firms that they regulate to see whether they've been carrying out, that is the law firms, the appropriate audits on their client account, or rather whether they arrange for those to be carried out. So I have with me today Luke Dickinson, who is one of our experts on law firm finance, and in particular with ensuring that people are compliant with these solicitors' accounts rules. So welcome, Luke. Nice to have you with us. So can I ask you, what's the background behind all of this?
So the SRA are currently looking into client money more generally. They're looking at the role of the reporting accountant, the role of the COFA. They're looking at whether law firms should even hold client money. Something that's been on their mind for some time since the removal of the requirement to submit accountants' reports is whether firms are actually going and obtaining these reports yearly. For some small firms, they've been taken out of requiring an accountant's report altogether. However, their thoughts are some firms misinterpreting those rules, or are some firms deliberately not going out and getting that accounts rules audit each year?
Okay.
So what we've seen over the last few years is a dramatic fall in the number of accountants reports that have been received from the SRA. Back in 2016, part of a three-phase consultation that they had over that length of time, they used to receive quite a lot of reports. I think it was sort of every report that was required was received. And that's sort of dropped off a cliff following the consultation on what the reporting accountant should be reporting to the SRA. Previously, it was everything. So everything from 14-day rule, which is when client money is taken for costs, all the way up to the very extreme residual balances acting as a bank. And there was a move that the reporting accountant would only report things that were a clear risk to client money or were material in nature. Because of that, the firms that were compliant with the SRA accounts rules went from submitting the report every year to not submitting anything at all. And the SRA feel that this poses a risk that a firm could not be obtaining that accountant's report each year.
So this sounds like it's just the sort of stuff that our regulators should be doing to make sure that people are being compliant. And, just by saying, guys, we want to have a look, it may then prompt people to say, hang on a moment, whoops, we can't ignore this. And of course, it's not their money, so it's client money, and we all may have used solicitors. And on the other side, as consumers, we jolly well want them to look after our money properly. So have you any idea how the SRA are going to approach this? How many firms they're going to be doing spot checks on if they're hiring extra people to keep them resource?
So yes, the SRA have hired a number of people for their forensic investigation team. I think that's widely known. Since the Axiom scandal a couple of years ago, it definitely feels from our clients who've had visits from the SRA that they've changed their mindset, that they want to go look into the firms. So the recent publication by the SRA that says they're going to do a few spot checks in the new year looks like they're going to take a handful of firms that they either know hold a lot of client money and haven't received a report in recent years, or they might do some random sampling and go out to firms. They could take two types of approaches. One could be to send an email to the firm. So through their MySRA, they'll have some contact details. They'll get hold of the contact and ask for, say, the last year or the last 3 years worth of accountants' reports and ask for a copy of those and look at those. Or they might do visits or something a little bit more formal. It looks from the limited information we received from that publication that it might be the former, that they just go and ask firms, can we see your last 3 accountants' reports? You may think on the back of that if they have concerns about, maybe legitimacy of that report, or they've got any questions further to that report, that they might either go ask the reporting accountant, maybe try and corroborate that audit was complete, because of course you could get in theory, that accountant's report off the web and fill it out. So they might want to go and double check that information. And they might also follow up on other information on there. So on the accountant's report, you have such information of, was it a cease to hold report? So did the practice cease holding client money? Is there client's own accounts? Of course, a new area since the November 2019 rules where client money is looking. So at client's own accounts, such as court protection accounts or trust accounts. And also has other information about who the COFA is. If that, of course, doesn't line up to my SRA account, has the correct authorizations been done? So there's quite a lot of things that they can follow up on from those, given that there's around 9,000 firms authorised by the SRA in England and Wales. Seems like they could sample quite a few of those. It seems quite an easy exercise, probably a couple of moments to send an email. They could do a bulk send of emails, which again, with current automation would be probably quite easy and quite easy to track the follow-up of that.
Absolutely. So we're just looking at the required reports or audits where firms are holding client money, and some firms will regard themselves as not having to have those audits carried out. So do you want to just remind us what the requirements are which trigger the need for those annual client account audits to be carried out?
Yeah, so I think this will probably be looked at with the current consultation on the rules. So it's definitely worth firms thinking about, even if they do qualify to be exempt from the audit, about thinking about what would happen if this does change. So if you're a small practice that holds minimal amounts of client money under the threshold, it might be worth thinking about, are we up to scratch? Are we, up to par with the regulations? It's something like a spot check of where you are with that compliance, would be worth thinking about. Yes, the current threshold is that either, and a reminder that this is from the bank statement amount at the time you reconcile. So that's generally the more formal reconciliations, which are done within 5 weeks. Most firms do that at month end. However, the rules would allow you to do that as many times as you want throughout a year, or at any time throughout the year, as long as you're doing one within each 5 weeks. That would be an average of 10,000 or less, and no more than a maximum of £250,000. And again, that's the amount on the bank statement, not what you have on the client ledgers. Again, that could be interpreted, and we've spoken to the SRA about this, that if you did have large amounts in as one-offs throughout the month, that by the end of the month, if your total is less than that 10,000, that you'd be under the threshold. Definitely something that I personally think they might have a look at, potentially, as their firms with large amounts of client money coming in, but falling under the threshold, falling out of that criteria, something that I think they probably, might consider having a look at. So yeah, it's definitely worth, if you're a firm that, if you do fall under those thresholds, it might be okay that you're currently not receiving that accountant's report, but it might be worth thinking about having a spot check over what's happening, what would happen if you did fall into that. Equally, if you are on the borderline and, potentially next year you are going to have an audit, because there will be some reporting requirements from the reporting accountant, it's probably worth getting up to speed before then. Of course, if you do hold client money, the SRA will expect you to be compliant on the rules, irregardless to whether you require that audit or not.
That's really helpful, Luke. So really the message is you make sure that you are compliant, whatever. Just remind yourself what the triggering thresholds are. And if you should have got a report, you may get found out by the SRA. So get one PDQ, because they're not going to be impressed if you haven't been doing that. They're having another look at this. That's something possibly for another video where we can talk about the consultations and where they might go. And then we'll do another one when we actually know what they're doing. But this is just focusing upon the spot checks on the firm's obligations to get the audits on the client's account when that's being triggered. So do watch out for this, everyone. I hope you found that this discussion has been helpful, and feel free to get in touch with us if you have any questions. We regularly help firms who end up being inspected, and we can also help with all sorts of elements relating to your SRA accounts rules compliance, and also other things like forecasting, financial health checks, gearing, profitability, and all that sort of stuff. So we can help you with that as well. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Luke. And I hope this has been helpful to you.